College Countdown. It is the 13th of November, 2025. I am Josh Neighbors. He is Jack Allen here today with you. Thanks for joining us on the show today. How should you approach coaching searches? Because we've had a lot of them, and none of them have been filled. And people are just losing their minds because they want information, which I totally understand. But also, how should we handle those? And Jack and I will kind of give our thoughts about that. Also, we'll let Jack talk a little bit about some LSU related things. And then we got to talk about Charles Huff and Southern Miss for a little bit as well, because we have a broad range of things that we discuss in this show. We don't just talk about the big dogs. We talk about a little bit of everything. So, Jack, first of all, how are you? Arkansas had a bye week, and you got the clip of the week. You went to Arkansas State and Southern Miss. For those of you who don't know, deer season, modern gun season just started in Arkansas, and that's partially the reason why. Other reasons too. The crowd was not there for the Arkansas State Southern Miss game, a very big game for first place in their division in the Sun Belt. And Butch Jones runs out, and Jack gets a shot where he's like, "Where are the fans? Is that
where are the fans?" That was the
exact
quote that he said as he walked out of literally first thing that he says when he comes out of the tunnel is he looks up, throws up his hands, he says, "Where are the fans?" And then he goes to a staffer and he says, "Where are the fans?" And then he goes and runs to each of his players and says, "We have to create our own energy."
I did like how he pivoted very fast. That was actually pretty decent coaching from him to do that. But yeah, so I mean, that was absolutely hilarious and absolutely crazy. So we'll get to Southern Miss in a little bit, but I want to talk about coaching searches. So I work a radio show, which means I'm a bit more susceptible, at least to the on-air side of things, where people are like we all have the stuff where it's like, who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think it's going to be? And I say, I don't know. Because like in Arkansas, at least, we've had people tweet emojis, and we have had people tweet like they're locked in. We've had media people say they've got a guy. It doesn't mean it's going to be the guy. So when you approach coaching searches, at least from how you gather your information about what you're hearing, how do you approach it? Because you and I are not newsbreakers. We're not really unless you probably broke it some, but we're not primarily newsbreakers. How do you approach that?
Well, I think that for me, the idea is that it's not done until they step off the plane. Like, that's always my opinion on everything, is that whenever it comes to, sourcing, even people who are in the know don't necessarily know, because everybody has their own motivations. There's so many external factors that are working when it comes to a coaching search, that even when you have a good feeling of what's going on, you don't know when the person across the aisle for negotiations has something else completely different that they are working on. So you don't know. You may feel like, hey, we're really close to a deal, when the reality is that whoever you're close to a deal with is very far away from a deal with you on their end. And so,
close to a deal with somebody else.
Exactly. So a lot of times you'll hear these people come out with their sources of so-and-so is close to a deal with so-and-so. And the reality is that one side, which is the side that they're getting their information from, thinks that they are close to a deal. But until that deal is signed and the paperwork is done, I don't believe any of it, because I've just seen it too many times where, even deals that seem to be in place fall through because something else comes along. And it's been really bad this cycle, especially. And I know this is part of what you want to talk about, is the idea that this cycle has been so long. There were so many coaches that were fired so early that it feels like something has to have happened by now. But just the way the calendar works and the way that the carousel spins, it takes time. And there are so many things that change between the start of the season and the end, that makes it to where coaches wouldn't want to sign a deal early on in this process.
Yeah, there's no incentive to, right? I mean, why would you sign a deal early if you're a coach? Because, and you and I are talking about this, like, let's just say, because James Franklin, Virginia Tech Heat is there. Pete Nakos says it's real. And if you're Franklin, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's another mountain school, it's in the ACC. Like, I would, if I was done at Penn State, I would go and take a job in an easier conference that gave me a lot of resources, just because it's going to be easier to rebuild Virginia Tech with what they're handing out in that league than it is to the Big 12 would be easier to win in than the SEC. Same thing for the ACC to the Big Ten. And it's like James Franklin can't win the big game. There's not many big games coming around the ACC. Not a ton of big games. And so for a variety of reasons, it makes a lot of sense. But it'd be privy not to sign a deal yet because you know what? Like they're going to wait on you regardless, and you don't know what jobs could open. That's number one. Like maybe something that opens up that's really fascinating to you opens up when you throw your hat in the ring, or you can leverage other jobs that are out there, right? I mean that's totally possible. Right now to leverage other jobs and get more money. That is a very real thing. So there's no incentive for a coach to be like, I'm at practice here on November 12th. Like there's 13th. There's really no reason for that. And it seems people are like, I'm surprised school X hasn't made an announcement. It wouldn't make any sense. It would make no sense to me for a coach to sign a contract right now.
Well, and the only ones who really can sign a contract right now are the ones that aren't under contract somewhere else. So you're talking about James Franklin, you're talking about like a John Gruden, you're talking about an Urban Meyer situation. Like
not Brian Kelly, because apparently he's still the coach at LSU.
Don't get me started. But basically, like if you're going to make an announcement, like say, Alex Golish is going to go to Arkansas, he's still the coach at South Florida. They are still a potential playoff team. He is not going to want for information to come out about him going to Arkansas until his season is done, even if they do have some sort of agreement that in principle worked out. Like they're not going to have an announcement while he's in the middle of the season right now. That's just going to be his wishes. That's going to be the way the school functions. And so as much as everyone sits around wanting something because people who have fired their coaches have given up on their current season, like they want something to be able to look forward to. It's just not how this works.
Yeah, I'm it's like as the openings go, because I mean I've been reading. I paid for On 3, which I was glad to do. I mean Pete Nakos has just been all over this stuff, and if you go and you read over there, and you get a pretty clear picture of what's happening. Like, I would just say to fans out there, just folks in general, like it's fun. It's fine to get excited. It really is. But message boards do not know. The admin there do not know. Trust people that are putting their names behind things with coaches' names in them. Like Pete Nakos, his name is at the top of this article. He's being, they make sure they include his name, at Pete Nakos reports, all this stuff. And, he's saying sources are telling me about this coach, John Summerall in Auburn. There's heat. For the Auburn job, he said, the other serious contender right now is DJ Durkin. So at this point in time, it sounds like the Auburn job, Summerall, which is something that I think has been pretty poorly kept secret, that Summerall and Auburn have had heat. I think it was one of the first calls that was made, maybe this offseason, right? That call might have been made. But that's what Pete's been saying, and that's what I've heard people. I would never come out and say anything about it because I don't actually know. I would not tell anybody, my friends or anything like that, because I don't want them to think that's the truth. But Pete Nakos' name is on the reporting. He's saying sources are telling him. Those are people you can trust. And I know it's frustrating and people want to be first, but I'd rather be right than be first. Because it's embarrassing when you're wrong about stuff like this. And, I know everybody wants to know. People call our show and say, it's going to be the Easter Bunny and JFK, in the athletic department, and Santa's the head coach. And he's going to bring in Rudolph to be the OC. It's like, that's essentially like what people are telling me at this point. You just have to be patient with this stuff and just know, like, hey man, like this is a byproduct of your team firing the coach with 8 games left to go, right? Arkansas has had 2 bye weeks. They've had 2 bye weeks with an interim coach. They had 1 bye week. They've had 3 games in a row at home. They had another bye week, and they're about to play the last 3 games of their season. So that's where I am. Just like, people, I know it sucks to say be patient, but like this sport has got so much going on and going wrong with it. Just can we at least as fans be a little bit patient with these coaching searches?
Yeah, it's time to pump the brakes for everybody, and especially if I see another eyeballs emoji on Twitter,
I will hurt that person. I will slash the tires of that individual.
Hey, but like I get it. It drives clicks. That's what people want to know. That's what people want to hear about. That's what people want us to talk about. And so but the reality is that concrete information just does not exist, even when people think it does.
People did this with conference realignment too. It was just nauseating. And I was like, so we had that long period of time where the Big 12 added the 4 from, so like Texas OU leave, Big 12 added the 4 new schools, and then the Pac-12 had the TV situation. I was like, well, just think about it logically. Like, read the reporting from Ross Dellinger. Some guy with an emoji and a fake, like, if you see anybody who's got an emoji, it's not their face or like their company's logo, and it's like at, clown, Funhouse 28, like, they're not legit. And, I was just thinking at that time, okay, well, Pac-12's running out of time to get a TV deal done to keep these members. And every single day, the TV company has got more leverage, which means they can offer the Pac-12 less money. Their gamble on streaming did not clear out. So my thought was, most likely 2 things will happen. Either A, they'll make a deal, but B, I think some of these members will bolt for the Big 12, and some will, like ultimately Washington and Oregon. That was a long shot for the Big 12 to get them. They joined the Big 10 at the discounted rate, which made a lot of sense because they didn't have much power at that point. And then the other schools jumped to the Big 12, and the Big 12 was openly waiting for them too. And so, like, it's okay to prognosticate about what's going to happen. Like, I think we should, I want to do a little bit of that right now. But, like, I think James Franklin and Virginia Tech is a very sensical thing to do. I think John Summerall and Auburn makes a lot of sense. I think those 2 are the most clear ones. I think Penn State and Eli Drinkwitz makes a good deal of sense. But as far as, let's start with our own job that we know the most, Jack, the Arkansas job. The names tossed out there: Alex Galesh, James Franklin, and then I was trying to think the third, totally blanking who it was. I have to go. Cool. I just had Pete Nicholas's article pulled up and then I put it down. Galesh, Summerall, and
Franklin.
One more time.
James Franklin.
Yeah. So
Summerall.
Those are 3 that were talked about. John Gruden, not involved, which, like, the only thing he would do is I think he would take field calls just to boost his media thing. I think he would like to coach, but, like, man, are you going to go from media to, like, turning over the reins of, because, like, the problem is now you're a CEO as a college ball coach. It's a big change to make from going from not coaching at all to, like, you run everything. And then also Rhett Lashley contacted, but they gave him a big extension. And I always thought too, like, that's a tough fight for any school to pull Rhett Lashley away, because SMU, the one thing they do have in abundance is money. And so, like, they're gonna make you pay to get him away, and the juice might not be worth the squeeze. Although you have to say 13-1, I think, in regular season ACC games. So yeah, pretty good. So thoughts about what Pete Nakos is reporting about the Arkansas job?
I think it makes sense. I think that there's sort of two pots for Arkansas right now. There is James Franklin, and then there is young up and comer. I think that's kind of the two realms that they are kind of fighting and battling between, and that's kind of the 2 that I can see. I don't really see. And then there's the dark horse Coach Cal type hire, which is going to be like a Dabo. I don't think that's going to happen, but I also didn't think Coach Cal would happen. And Josh is shaking his head saying, no.
It's happened before. It's just like the idea that would happen. I mean, the reason why it was so crazy is because it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't happen very often. The idea that would happen twice. And when was the last time a football hire made you say, like not like, whoa, I don't know what we're doing here, but like, whoa?
I would go back to the Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley saga and how that all played out. Was the last time that I just went, wait, what?
Yeah, well, the fact that Lincoln Riley ended up at USC, because the LSU was the one, I think, forever, right? That
originally, it was going to be Lincoln Riley. I remember I was in Baton Rouge the night that Lincoln Riley said he was going to Oklahoma, and the LSU radio burned down. It was the night they played Texas A&M, and it was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the last move was that Lincoln Riley one that I was just like, wait.
What? Yeah. I mean, to be like, Florida's the one place I could see maybe a wow one happening. LSU, well, your LSU Tigers are known to do a little bit of craziness. Let's go there next to talk about the situation, because we have a couple things, and I made this point, and I don't want to hit on this too much, but like we had talked a whole lot about like there's no more loyalty anymore. People don't care. Well, You know why? Like when the adults in the room are doing things like, we're going to guarantee this contract, and then we're going to ask you to take less twice, and then we're going to say, actually, the athletic director who we told to fire you and put his name on it actually didn't have the authority to fire you, although nobody complained at the time when it happened. And they said he didn't have the authority, and now they're going to try and get money back that they guaranteed him, and they're going to try and do that by basically going to, as this always happens, Jeremy Pruitt, Kevin Ollie, discredit him and tear down his image and whatnot. Not that his image needs a lot more tearing down, but to me, like, that's just sets a terrible precedent. And Jack, I think LSU is an amazing job. I think there's a good argument for it being the best job in the country, but this would make a coach, if I was a coach, considering the jobs available, because if you're good enough to get the LSU job, you're probably good enough to get a Florida job as well. This would make me hesitate a little bit because the alignment we talk about is just not there, obviously.
Well, obviously, I mean, if the alignment's not there between the board and the athletic director, to where the athletic director somehow doesn't have the ability and authority to fire the coach, like, what authority does the athletic director have? And if the athletic director doesn't have authority, who am I really answering to? And the board clearly, the board has been on TV talking about the search for a new head coach. So clearly the board knew that Brian Kelly was not the coach anymore. I like it. This argument and this lawsuit.
What? Come again?
Completely ludicrous. The idea that they would try to pull this as the like, it makes no sense to me.
Yes.
But what does make sense to me is that you have a governor who spent a lot of time complaining about the cost of the buyout, who went on the State House floor and in a press conference about SNAP benefits talked about, the fact that we're paying too much of a buyout for a coach and that any future deals shouldn't have that. Like, it feels like this is him putting his foot down and saying, we're not going to pay this type of big money. And they're trying to find a way to get out of it. I don't see a reality where this works out for LSU, and all it's doing in the process is hurting their reputation on a national scale and hurting the brand that they're associated with.
Totally. Let's talk about Charles Huff here in Southern Miss here in 1 second. But first, a word from our sponsors.
One play can change a season. One upset can silence a stadium. With every snap, the stakes get higher, and no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. From live betting to odds, boosts, and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from kickoff to the final whistle. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NEIGHBORS. That's code NEIGHBORS to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
One more quick word.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
So I know Charles Huff just took a new job and has really turned things around at Southern Miss. He's done a great job there. But Jack, you wanted to mention Southern Miss. So what do you find about these Eagles? They're Golden Eagles?
Golden Eagles.
What do you find so interesting about these Golden Eagles?
Well, so I got the chance to see them play on Saturday, and they were very impressive. They dominated both sides of the ball against Arkansas State, forced a ton of turnovers. I will say it was interesting. Arkansas State had a chance to win at the end of that game, but it felt very against the run of play that they were even in it at the end. Southern Miss has looked they're 5-0 in the Sun Belt right now, 7-1 overall. Their 1 losses against Mississippi State. And so I'm very impressed with what they've done, but I'm even more fascinated by the fact that all week long, Butch Jones for Arkansas State discussed Southern Miss as the reigning Sun Belt champions. Like, that was a phrase that he used multiple times in his press conference, multiple times when he was talking about this team. He called them the reigning Sun Belt champions. Southern Miss did not win a Sun Belt game last year. Like, they were not good last year, but it's interesting because the reality is that this year's Southern Miss is last year's Marshall. They have 7 returning starters from that Marshall team playing for Southern Miss this year on the defense alone. And so many of those players followed him. And so the question that it makes me think about, and the idea that it makes me think about, is the question of how much does a school's culture matter compared to how much does a coach's culture matter? And how much do those players matter? If you get what I'm saying, like
Balance.
He basically took Marshall and brought it to Hattiesburg.
Yeah. I mean, New Mexico State came to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and so there's a few examples. I mean, even when Cignetti went from James Madison to Indiana, like, a lot of that followed him there. And so, like, we talk about the impact of coaches. Like, there are some programs that feel better than the coaches, but in a lot of cases, it feels like coaches are bigger than the programs. And how much value a coach really can have, I think that Southern Miss is showing that this year, and the impact that the cult of Charles Huff and everything that surrounds him in his orbit brings to the table. I just think it's been a really fascinating case study to see in the immediate success that they've been able to have in a program that did not look good a year ago.
Yeah, and he was Charles Huff, and somebody. I mean, he switched 2 jobs, so it's not being talked about. But 7-6, 9-4, 6-7, and then 10-3 last year in Marshall. 32-20 overall, 20-12 this year. 7-2, 5-0. So basically takes a very similar team, but still not all of his players. He's 39-22 overall, and then has a conference record of 25-12. Coaches have gone on other places a lot shorter. I know it's been twice, but I can't understand why his name's not being talked about at all, because he has rubbed shoulders with James Franklin. He has rubbed shoulders with Nick Saban in the 2019 season at Alabama. And he spent 3 years, by the way, there. And then he went to Mississippi State. And I think he was with – when did Mike Leach – he was probably Leach. 2018? Was 18 Leach?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, Mike Leach. And then also – I mean, the guy's picked up a lot, obviously. And then also Nick Saban. So – are you surprised that his name hasn't been talked about? I mean, bandied about for if Maryland does become open, which is not yet, which I've been going around thinking it was open for weeks because I read the fake thing. I didn't look hard enough. And I didn't really thought about Maryland football very much this year. But like, he's from Maryland. He went to Hampton, so that'd be a good job. But I mean, I think that I am a little surprised I'm not seeing his name come up more.
Yeah, not necessarily for being surprised that his name is not in like serious conversation, but like the fact that it's not being mentioned is very surprising to me. Just the fact that he's one of those guys that's shown he can have success in multiple places, and that has a lot of value. You think about guys like a Kurt Cignetti. It's like, oh, he proved it in multiple places. Lance Leipold proved he can do it at multiple places. Like it's this idea that
winning travels.
Yeah. If you have things working, it doesn't really matter where you are. Now, there's always going to be that question of how does that translate? Some coaches don't translate from G5 levels to P5 levels. And I call it the Dan Mullen paradigm of like, some coaches are really good at making 3-star players play like 4-star players, but aren't great at getting the most out of 5-star players.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe
that's Dan Mullen. Yeah.
Maybe that's the concern. But to me, whenever you've had as much success in multiple places as he's had, I don't understand why he would not at least be in the conversation for getting a shot at something.
Yeah, and I mean, like the Marshall thing. I mean, you go 10-3, and I think maybe there was so much to do about like the friction, like because there was so. I mean, like he and he kind of did the Dana Holgerson. Like, I mean, there's not, especially modern times, those are the only 2 guys I can think of that were coaching on the last year of their contract. It's very rare to see that. And, obviously very frustrated by it. And it sounded like he had every right to be. But, yeah, it's somebody obviously that, I think we both think that we should see some of the stuff, about him popping up relatively soon. as far as that goes. One more thing before we get out of here, Jack. The Pac-12 gets a TV deal. They're back with USA Sports. Let's see. And the Pac-12, just a reminder, it's going to be Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Gonzaga, basketball, obviously, Oregon State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, Washington State. And let's see, it's going to be spun off of Comcast and NBC, called Versant. And then let's see, they've got the Golf Channel and CNBC. But just goes to show you, are you a YouTube TV guy?
More or less, yes.
Like it's everywhere. I'm glad football is everywhere. It's also bad that football is everywhere because it's getting expensive, man. I mean, it's getting really, really expensive. And look, we all like having an a la carte, but like it's almost like we actually have to go back to cable at this point because it's like if only one thing offered everything I need at one time. Oh, Comcast Xfinity, like Dish Network is back, right? Like it's almost like we need cable.
Well, I will say it's been very frustrating for me to hear people, come to that conclusion and try to act like cable is the godsend and why did we ever leave cable, as if there aren't also real legitimate issues with the price and everything of cable. Like, guess what? Spoiler alert, cable still exists right now. You can go sign up for it today, but you don't. You know why? Because it's expensive.
Yeah. We just need to control the price is really the big thing. It's like you can't ask fans to pay this much money. I mean, I guess you can. But
can.
Like
they're paying because look at how much money they're paying for the rights to hold it.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You cannot want your schools to be getting these big TV deals and ESPN to be paying all this money and all this revenue sharing, and the SEC is making millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know who they're making that millions and millions and millions of dollars from? It's you, Josh. It's me. It's everybody listening to this podcast. And so the reality is that until it hits some sort of point where it's too much for us to actually consume, it's going to keep going up.
Consumers vote with their eyeballs and their by extension their dollars. Well, also not by extension, but and also their dollars. And I mean, we keep voting for football. There's a reason why they expanded it to 12. There was none before. Like, wow, one championship game. Let's do 3 games involved in the championship. And they're like, we can really take this thing to more than that, obviously. And I think there is a middle ground eventually that will be struck, where it's like, because I mean, I'm curious as to how many teams, like, we're going to end up having a Super League at some point in time. I mean, we're getting close to that at this juncture in time too. But like 50 schools that are like, we are serious about football, join together and do that. And you wonder, like, what does that actually look like? I actually saw Ari Wasserman of On3 made a good point the other day. He's like, what was the point of the last round of realignment? Because like we got a bigger playoff, so like access was all there, and then we're firing everybody's coach because we're not making it now as well. So it's like the thing is with the 12-team playoff, the jobs in other conferences have gotten more enticing. Like Virginia Tech is a more enticing job because I mean you see the ACC, like they put Miami in the bracket the other day, but like Miami's got like a 6% chance of winning, but like that might be the best team in the league. There's like, I mean Duke, Virginia, Georgia Tech. Like that's a very likely combination of those 3 being in a championship game for a playoff spot. Man, it'd be pretty easy to get in that mix. And so it's funny because like the last round of realignment and NIL has actually accomplished 2 things. It actually has done stuff that we've always wanted for the sport. It's spread out the talent, but also kind of rendered the next, like the rounds of realignment a bit. It's nullified them a bit because like the ACC and the Big Ten the SEC and Big Ten are running away money wise, and they've got most of the teams too. But like it's still possible to win at Texas Tech, and Virginia's not good, but they're gonna might get in the playoff. So yeah.
But the reality is, like you were talking, it's positioning for what might be next. Like you want to be in the Big Ten, you want to be in the SEC right now, because if there is a next step, it's consolidation and creating a new division of college football. And that feels like it's what's next on the horizon. And the other thing is, like, we talk about the solution to our sports TV issues. Like the reality is, if you created a super league, you would make it like the NFL, where there's one media rights deal for everybody.
Yes.
And that would consolidate some of the like it would function a lot more like the NFL in terms of how the TV agreements work, where you wouldn't have everybody everywhere all at once. And then it would probably end up being where everything else is on ESPN Plus.
Right.
And so you would it would almost consolidate you down to maybe 2 or 3 as opposed to 20.
As opposed to asking, do I have the CW? That's kind of the
I have USA Network or what, CNBC.
I mean, because right now there are games on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Plus, Fox Sports 1, that's 6, NBC is 7, CBS is 8, if you want to count Peacock as 9, CW is 10, TNT is 11. I mean, like there are college football games happening on at least 10 different channels at this point in time, and like the NFL happens on 4, if you want to, ABC, ESPN, 5 actually, ABC, ESPN, NBC, CBS, and did I miss anything? Fox. So yeah. So I mean, like, you get the 2 ESPN things, and then you get they've done some on Netflix and whatnot, obviously, but like those are one-offs, and they never make the product too far out of reach.
Yeah.
Amazon, yeah, but like it's not a consistent deal where it's like every single week there's a game on Amazon. Well, I guess Thursday night is, but like Netflix, and there's no Netflix every single week. So yeah. All right, Jack, where can the folks find you and your work and all of its variety?
Jack Allen TV on Twitter, katv.com. Tune in, Channel 7. We're starting to make the flip from football to basketball around here. Arkansas, until with the exception of a coaching search, there's not that much to talk about. But I will be in Baton Rouge this weekend. Hogs at LSU, and a battle of interim coaches.
A home game for you.
Who wants it less?
Yeah. Y'all can find me at @JoshNeighbors_ on Twitter. It's at CC Podcast JN. Like the show. Follow us on X, and then we're on Facebook. I have to make the Facebook. And then also YouTube, like the video, sub to the channel, leave your comments. All right, Jack. Thank you so much, brother.
See you.